So this week we're back with some more kitbashing. And that's because a few months ago, White Dwarf came out with its 500th issue. And as you can see on the front cover, resplendently standing there is the titular White Dwarf himself, Grombrindal. Now, as I open up my book, I will find lots of lovely rules. I can play with my Grombrindal miniatures that I can buy in Age of Sigmar, Warcry, Underworlds, and even the Old World. But where's my Warhammer 40K? Where's my necromunda? Where's my kill team rules, AGW? And that got me thinking, maybe if I put the effort in, I build something that can work in Warhammer 40k, necromunda, and maybe kill team, then maybe GW will respond by giving me rules for Grombrindal in those games. As such, today we're not going to be making a Grombrindal, we're going to be making a Grombrindal. So what we're going to be using? Well, we have to start with this one, the celebratory model that came out for Warhammer 500, the Grombrindal himself. And then to go along with that, I have a load of Dark Vengeance Chaos Space Marines, which, because they're pre-primaris, they're a little bit more squat, and therefore dwarf-like, that I could use them in that. And yes, they're going to be Chaos. I thought that would be obvious, but if I need to explain it to you, read the title of the channel. Oh, and before you go, if I could do the YouTube bit and ask if you did enjoy this video to give us a like and consider giving us a subscribe, because then you can see when more of my kit bashes come out, such as my upcoming Chaos converted Dornian Heresy Asmodai, as well as all the Necromunda stuff I do, and some other fun little things besides. So why don't we just get started and see how I made this 40k conversion for Grombrindal, aka the Grombrindal. So after another excitable intro, let's get started. First thing to do was open up the Grombrindal box and see what we got. One of the first things that struck me in this box was the base. It is incredible, and I just knew instantly we are using that. Whatever we're going to add to it is just going to be enhanced by that incredible massive rock with all these leftover dead bits from other models is just incredible. So sticking to that. Next up was getting out the Chaos Space Marines. Now I got these from a Dark Vengeance box set that I got ridiculously good price on eBay, so that was a lucky one. As I said before, it's because they're pre-primaris, they're a much more squat figure, so this is going to make Grombrindal feel that dwarf-like against modern day primaris. And this one, with the ribcage, had a really cool axe, so perfect. Put the head against it and it fit, scale works, so that was lucky. First thing to do was get rid of this gun because the beard was flowing into it and it was pushing them away, and I didn't want him to have a gun. Also, you're going to see some pretty brutal cuts here because I bought these pre-primed and glued and they've sort of fused together, so yeah, you're going to see a lot of that. Now, there was this bit in the back of the head, as you can see there, it was a push fit model, so I had to grind that down before it would fit back on the body. Additionally to that, on the Chaos Space Marine, you'll notice they've got this rib cage that's exposed and it was not letting it fit on properly, so I had to trim that down with the clippers. Again, not my prettiest work, but I knew that this beard was going to hide a lot of that mess, so we got rid of that. And now it fit really well. A couple little bit extra back and forth with that rib cage, and then glued it down, and it was there. There were a few little gaps just because of the nature of being a push fit model, weird connections in the face, so I got a bit of sprue, glued it up and stuck it in those holes just to neaten up that joint. Next up was the affectionately called crotch piece. It's actually a belt buckle with a dwarven motif that's on the Grombrindal model, and I wanted to take that as an extra bit just to give more of that Grombrindal flavour to our Grombrindal. So I cut that off in the least awkward way I knew possible. There was a couple of bits of shaving down and the back of it was a bit thicker than it needed to be, so I had to use a bit of the file, a little bit of the scalpel, just so that it would fit onto the belt buckle area that is on the Grombrindal model. It was ridiculously fiddly, so I tried using the scalpel and eventually got the tweezers out to make it fit on as neatly as possible, and there it was. Next up was sorting out that left arm. I had to look through the bits box to see what I could find, at the same time looking for some backpacks. I really struggled. I had these pauldrons from the Deathwatch sprue, so I kept those to the side. But what struck me was this Stormcast model that I had. It has a lantern in this right arm. The wrong arm, but it made me think that Grombrindal is the wandering dwarf. He turns up across the multiverse whenever dwarves are in need, so I felt I wanted that lantern, and it made me think of these Inner Circle companions that I bought recently for another kitbash. And in that, one of them has what looks like a lantern, but I later found out it's called a sensor. It's what they use in mass. And it's a variant sculpt, so it's not going to ruin my kit. And I thought, I'm going to take this and I'm going to fix that as the left arm, and perfect. So I just cut all the pieces I needed to off the sprue. There was only a few, glued them together, and then sit it next to the model to see how it fit. Now, as you can see, it's a little bit longer than the pre-primaris arm, which is going to be natural, and so it needed a bit of trimming. And at the same time, I was thinking about the pose that I wanted to create here. Now, the way that axe is sweeping round, I had this idea in my head that I want this pose to look like he's sort of been startled. So I pushed the other arm back to the left-hand side, so it seems like he's sort of sweeped round because he's been startled by something. He's seen it, something out of the corner, and he's holding his lantern to the side, keeping an eye on where he was, and using his axe where he can't see. And I think it worked quite well. Next up was the pauldron. Those Deathwatch sprue pauldrons are great, however the trim was getting in the way of the head and the beard, so I trimmed off that trim. No, that's a weird thing to say. And I fit it onto the corner of the model. Later on in this video, you'll briefly see me do some damage to that in the painting phase because I felt it just looked a bit too pristine, and also it fit with this narrative that I'm starting to build up in my head about why is Grombrindal in the 41st millennium. And I'm going to talk a bit about my narrative over the top of the painting phase, so we'll talk about that then. Once I got that situated, I felt that the body's looking pretty cool now. The only thing that's missing is that backpack. Now, I didn't want to just give him the Chaos Space Marine one. I feel I want him to be patchwork. So I had this Mechanicum one with these cool readouts, buttons, and antennae, which felt much more Traveller and much more sort of like Heath Robinson. Like that cable, you know, that's kind of the vibe. Next up is the base. So I got the base, as I said, from the original Grombrindal. It's just a perfect base. So put that together as it was in the instructions. It's push fit, but I glued it as well because you want to make this a solid model. And it was very easy. And all the little bits are so cool and thematic. There's bits from orcs, there's bits from chaos models. Really cool. This being an old Chaos Space Marine, it had one of the bar slotter fitters, so I had to cut that off and shave that down before I could fit it on. Once it was on there, the back left foot had a little bit of a gap, and so the final piece I needed to add to this model was something for him to be stepping on. And so what better than not a skull, as I tried out here first, but the head of the Chaos Space Marine that I just decapitated to give him his suit. And that is sort of the final bit of the narrative. That was the final sort of piece that fit into this story for what's happened to Grombrindal. Why is he in the 41st millennium? And why is he wearing a Chaos Space Marine suit? So really all there's left to do now is take a look at the painting phase, and in that we're just going to tell you a little story of our Grombrindal. Or should I say, Grombrindal! Cursed by the gods to wander the world, ever fighting off the evil that faces any of the dwarf kin, Grombrindal was there at the end times, at the death of his old friend Malekith, which was at the end of his own blade. In those final moments, he saw the anger and hate recede from his dying friend's eyes, so he could see the kindness that he once knew. Though the world fell to chaos still around him, and all was engulfed in the war, Grombrindal was flung into the ether. And yes, in one story, he was remade by Grungi in the Age of Myths, to watch ever over his kin once again. Yet here, in another time, the essence of Grombrindal was cast deeper into the flames. His rage here at the loss of his dwarf kit was twisted and even tainted somewhat by the energies that pervaded. Fortunately not as of yet corrupted by it, but emboldened in his anger, he was birthed into a new world, a land where the doors are not as he knew, though He could sense on the seas of emotion that flow through the warp a kinfolk who spoke the same ancestors of old. There he found his resolution, and was destined to a new goal, to aid those lost in this feral place beyond reality, to guide them and his kin home safe. His eyes awoke to the sounds of darkness, the smell of death upon the air, the flickering lights of ancient ships, constructed of no metal he had ever seen in the forges of home. Here he felt the air thicken upon his lungs, the cold rip at his flesh. He searched in the dark, but all he found was bodies piled high, all adorned in armor of complex forms that one even witnessing made his skin crawl. Yet it spoke to him, it spoke of power, and thus he donned the vessel, fusing to his form with energy surging through him greater than he'd ever known. And somehow, guided still by the wind of Grombrindal, the dwarf was not further corrupted. His light grew dimmer that day, yes, as his anger gained greater hold. Picking up a lantern from another strewn corpse, the dwarfkin, he dove deeper into the ship's hold in search of a bridge, and thus the manner in which to find his kin once again. So there you have it, everyone, my Grombrindal. I do hope you've enjoyed the video. Tried something different there with the narrative flavor. It's because I do look at the YouTube things and it tells me that people kind of skip a lot of the painting, and I really enjoy writing the narrative things, and I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below, see if you like it, give me a like, and please, if you did enjoy this video, give me a subscribe, because I've got another kitbash coming soon. We're going to be making my Dornian Heresy Asmodai, which is using the old metal Asmodai from when I was a kid, because that was my favourite model, I think, at that time. If you do want to see more photos of the Grombrindal as well as Chris's version of the Grombrindal, why don't you head over to the Discord, or you can check out either my Instagram, which is fueled_chaos, or Chris's, which is Citadel Miniatures, and it's spelled how you'd expect it to be. Anyway, until next time, everyone, you stay safe at Mount Hive.